ॐ भद्रं कर्णैभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Let us now pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all, thou art all, thou assumest all forms, thou art the origin and goal of all, thou art the self of all, thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Swami Atmajnanananda ji will be the speaker this afternoon evening, and he will be speaking on the No One But Me to Blame, a wonderful poem of Swami Vivekananda. The Swami is the resident minister at the Vedanta Center of Greater Washington, D.C., and has come here many times, so you all know about him. Yesterday he gave a very nice retreat on poems of Swami Vivekananda. And for today's this Sunday talk, he chose another poem of Swami Vivekananda, No One But Me to Blame. And friends, let us sing that song, that poem, led by Peter Travisano. Peter, please.
Thank you, dear Swami. The rendering of this beautiful poem was composed by our dear friend, the late Joe Dwyer, who many of you, I'm sure, remember. The sun goes down, his crimson rays light up the dying day. A startled glance I know behind, and count my triumph shame. No one but me to blame. Each day my life I make or mar, each deed begets its kind. Good, good, bad, bad, the tide once said. No one can stop or stem. No one but me to blame. I am my own, embodied past, there in the past was made the will, the thought that to conform, that to the outer frame, no one but me to blame. I give up hate, I give up love, my thirst for life is gone. Eternal death is what I want. Nirvanam goes life's flame. Love comes reflected, back is love. Hate breeds more fierce hate. They meet their measures, lay on me. Though life and death their claim, no one but me to blame. I cast off fear and vain remorse. I fear my karma sway. I face the ghosts my deeds have raised. Joy, sorrow, censure, fame. No one but me to blame. Good, bad, love, hate, and pleasure, pain, forever linked go. I dream of pleasure without pain. It never, never came. No one but me to blame. I give up hate, I give up love. My thirst for life is gone. Eternal death is what I want. Nirvanam goes life's flame. No one is left to blame. One only man, one only God, one ever perfect soul. One only sage who ever scorned the dark and dubious ways. One only man who dared think and dared show the goal, that death is cursed and so is life, and best when stops to be. Om Namo Bhagavate Sambuddhaya.
We've seen so far the special genius of Swami Vivekananda. Sri Ramakrishna never tired of singing his praises. This is one thing that we see over and over again. We read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and to the great embarrassment of Narendra, he will just enumerate all of his brilliant mind, his ability to sing, to play musical instruments, to cut the arguments of other people to shreds. He, in front of him and everybody else, He even would say things like, this Keshav Sen, he may have this much of brilliance, and Narendra has so much. And Narendra, he would think, who is this madman? That this Keshav Sen is a world-renowned scholar, spiritual leader, been to England, everything, and I'm nobody. But Sri Ramakrishna saw something special in him. Can you imagine if he had known at that time that he was also a poet and a songwriter, and because that was one thing he hadn't seen, that how this young Narendra would turn into such a beautiful composer of hymns and songs in Sanskrit, in Bengali, in English, and how full of pathos they would be. Many of the poems, this one also that we've seen, have a little bit of a dark side to them. And this, I think, is because when Swamiji was in some type of mood, when he was going through a difficult period, very often he would write these poems to express that. Sometimes he would write them to express the tremendous joy and different types of, we can even say, experiences of realization. He would write poetry also. Some were clearly inspired, some were light, some he wrote for the benefit of some of his very dear friends. As I mentioned before, a whole series of very light and very joyful letters, poetry letters back and forth between Mary Hale and Swamiji. We have this term in Sanskrit, kavi. Kavi means a poet. Kavi also means a very wise person. Kavi is also a name of the personal God. And that power to create this universe is something that only a poet can do. And when we read the Upanishads, we really find some of the greatest flights of poetry there. They're not simply a philosophical text full of wisdom, but that type of poetic flight. And poetry and song and other types of art can express very deep spiritual and philosophical truths much better than philosophy can very often. So we see this when we read the poems of Swamiji, we really get some sense of depth of his experience, depth of his emotion, depth of his personality. And this is why yesterday I spent a lot of time on the background, context, because there's a hidden story, a backstory to many of these poems. So especially when we get to this, no one but me to blame, that we'll find that Swamiji's in a particular type of mood. And the other thing we notice about Swamiji is that he has so many different ways of looking at things. And when he's in one particular mood and looking at things from one point of view, that becomes so dominant that we think that this is the beginning and the end of everything for Swamiji. This was so evident and so distinctive in his lifetime that many of his own brother disciples and his disciples, they would very often get confused. They, Swamiji, but yesterday you said this. And yesterday he was in that mood, so he would speak like that. So we'll find that sometimes everything is manliness and strength, and you can do everything. And then sometimes this almost pessimistic type of feeling, dragged down by our own karma and by past events and everything. So we have to understand the particular mood that Swamiji was in, and that he was very complex individual. And these different strains are there. And this is why his personality is so attractive and so mysterious and so difficult to grasp that we can say that Sri Ramakrishna was really the only one who really understood who this Narendra was. Holy Mother was the one who could appreciate him. And when everybody else questioned things, she would say, no, that what my Naren is doing, this is the will of the master. She understood all of these things. Others to a certain extent. But this is something that I always marvel at, how all of the brother disciples were equal. They were all equally the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And yet, how they stood in awe of Swamiji and the brilliant intellect of his, and were willing to bow down to his will and wish when they didn't often understand exactly the depth of insight that he had into things that he had. So this is all a little bit of background for how we approach a poem like this. That in some aspects it doesn't sound like Swamiji. At some parts of it, it sounds a little pessimistic. That what type of mood was he in at that time? So we sang it, but let me read it one more time. I'll go through it slowly so we can get some sense of the feeling and depth of pathos and what must have been going through Swamiji's mind when he wrote these words. The sun goes down, its crimson rays light up the dying day. A startled glance I throw behind and count my triumph, shame, no one but me to blame. Each day my life I make or mar, each deed begets its kind. Good, good, bad, bad. The tide once said, no one can stop or stem, no one but me to blame. I am my own embodied past, therein the plan was made. The will, the thought, to that conform, to that the outer frame, no one but me to blame. Love comes reflected back as love, hate breeds more fierce hate. They meet their measures, lay on me, through life and death their claim, no one but me to blame. I cast off fear and vain remorse, I feel my karma sway, I face the ghosts my deeds have raised, joy, sorrow, censure, fame, no one but me to blame. Good, bad, love, hate, and pleasure, pain, forever linked go. I dream of pleasure without pain, it never, never came, no one but me to blame. I give up hate, I give up love, my thirst for life is gone. Eternal death is what I want, nirvanam goes life's flame, no one is left to blame. One only man, one only God, one ever-perfect soul, one only sage who ever scorned the dark and dubious ways, one only man who dared think and dared show the goal, that death is curse and so is life, and best when stops to be. Om Namo Bhagavate Sambuddhaya. Om, I salute the Lord, the awakened. Now, whether Swamiji was referring specifically to Buddha, we can't say with 100% certainty. I have the feeling that this was, that some Buddha really means just the awakened one, that Swamiji often said that Buddha claimed never to be a person but a state, and that everyone can attain to that state. This is very common in the Buddhist theology, Buddhahood. We can all become awakened and enlightened. So we see all of the various important essential ideas of Vedanta with regard to karma. This is essentially an explanation of this doctrine of karma, or law of karma, or theory of karma, however we accept it, from a psychological point of view, from a metaphysical point of view, deals with this question of how do we explain circumstances in which we're born, how do we explain the things that happen to us, to what extent do we have any free will to change things, how bound are we by our past, how much does prarabdha karma affect us? All of these things are either mentioned or hinted at in this poem. And this very important question that to what degree can we change? And to what degree are we bound by our karma? To what degree do we have some type of personal freedom? Now, with the poems that we went through yesterday, we saw with some clarity a little bit of the context. Some of them were written specifically in a letter to a certain person. Some we know a little bit more of the background. This particular one is a little bit mysterious because we don't have much background on it. We know the date when it was written. This was written from New York, May 16th, 1895. So very similar to the dates of some of the other poems that we saw. And it just surfaced many years later. This was also the case with the Song of the Sannyasin. We know it was composed in Thousand Island Park. It wasn't lost because it was published. He sent it back to India also, but the handwritten version was found many years later by some worker who was working in the house that way. This particular one was presented to Swami Vijayanandaji. He was a disciple of Swami Brahmanandi, and he was the head of the Ramakrishna Vedanta Center that was in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And we don't know who the person was. The person who presented the letter to him remains anonymous, and we don't know if that was the person or a relative of the person who received the letter. We don't know anything about it. But we have the date. As I say, New York, May 16th, 1895. Perhaps it was also part of a letter. Perhaps it was just a poem. My guess is probably that, I shouldn't even say that, but many of his poems were parts of letters. So we really don't know too much about that. This date, May 16th, is roughly the time of the birth anniversary of Buddha. Of course, it goes by Tithi, so it's different every year. But it's quite possible that this was what they call the thrice blessed day, that Buddha was born, had his nirvana, and had his mahanirvana, passed away, all on the same particular date, separated by something like 80 years. But we do have the content and the message of the poem, and we know the events that were taking place in Swamiji's life at that time. Again, I'll be repeating some of the things that I said yesterday because it's the same period of time. And Swamiji went through all of the same difficulties at this time as he had before writing all of the others. So we see that Swamiji was feeling a certain type of disgust for the world at that time. Now, his disgust for the world was both praise and blame. That somehow, the being heaped with praise, he shied away from that. He was so free from this longing for name and fame that he really couldn't bear too much of it. And this idea of blame, he never took very personally, but he was hurt very much. Now, some of the things that took place in Swamiji's life at that time, with so many ups and downs, the Parliament of Religions, that he was just completely lionized there, that he was so popular that they would announce his name as a speaker when people started to leave the room. Other speakers were so boring, they said, everybody wait, don't get up yet. The Swami Vivekananda will speak again at the end, and then they would all come back and wait. So he experienced that. He experienced what it felt like to have a whole room full, thousands of people stand up without even knowing why, and wildly applauding him. What did he do? Sisters and Brothers of America, just a few small words, but they felt that power. And I don't want to keep saying it disgusted him, but it was something that he had no intention, he had no desire for it. That wasn't the reason why he was there. He was there as an instrument in the hands of Sri Ramakrishna, and to try to do something for his countrymen. The two motives, we can say, for his going to the West. Now, he had newspapers and people coming after him, and disciples, everyone praising him to the skies, and the equal kind of backlash from Christian missionaries. And I think what probably hurt him the most, two things hurt him the most. One, he was such a devoted member of the Brahmo Samaj before he met Sri Ramakrishna. And he had such reverence for Keshav. They all did. This is, we shouldn't think that when they met Sri Ramakrishna, that they just said, oh, now we see Keshav as nobody. They had great respect for Keshav. One of the other members of the Brahmo Samaj, Pratap Majumdar, he went to see Sri Ramakrishna several times. He also wrote something on the life of Sri Ramakrishna and knew this Narendra, and yet, and came to the Parliament of Religions, and yet there was some streak of jealousy. Something was there that turned him completely against Narendra. And the type of criticism he laid upon him was something that he knew was false. It's very hard for us to understand. This is the type of behavior. But two things that he claimed, that this Narendra, that he was an actor on the stage. Now, was he an actor on the stage? Yes, the Brahmo Samaj used to put on plays, and he would participate in them sometime. But here he's giving the impression that he's just pretending to be a sannyasin, and really he's a lawyer. Now, how was he a lawyer? He was studying to be a lawyer. His father was a lawyer and everything, but so misleading that it must have hurt Swamiji terribly, because he liked this Pratap Majumdar. They had a relationship and everything. And then Christian missionaries, not just slandering Swamiji, but his beloved India, throwing babies to crocodiles and all of these things, because there was a great fear that this flow of money would stop, that they had to raise money for this missionary work in India. So Swamiji had to put up with all of these different things, from those adoring disciples of his to those who just wanted to pull him down. And so these things are all in his mind. Now, the other thing is the silence from India. While all of this was going on, Swamiji kept thinking that if only somebody with some kind of authority can write something and say, this Swami Vivekananda, he's not a cheat, that he's representing the people of India. See, the problem with Hinduism is that it doesn't have any type of governmental hierarchy or something that other religions do, where there'll be a pope or there'll be some main bishop, and they can designate somebody. It doesn't have that type of structure to it. So there was really nobody who really could do much, who could really say. He didn't come as a representative of anything. He came just on his own. He had no letters. That was the big problem. He had to get this Professor Wright to write for him. Otherwise, they weren't willing to let him speak at the Parliament of Religions. This Professor Wright, Harvard professor, happened to have met him before and said, look, this young man that you want to prevent from speaking is more learned than all of our university professors put together. So finally he was allowed to speak. But the silence from India and his brother disciples, that he thought, at least do something, not for me personally, but for the sake of the work. That Can't some meeting be got up and some of the important people say something? So eventually it was done. This was done. And for Swamiji, this was a very great thing. He had no lack of appreciation for any kindness that was done for him. So this actually took place September 5th, 1894, if I have the dates right here, that a big meeting was held in Calcutta. This is a few months before he wrote this poem. Word was slow to get to him, but little by little he started getting newspaper clips of everything. So many that he had to finally write back, stop sending me so many. So there's reports of this, because some of the most important figures in Calcutta had come at that time, and to proclaim, yes, that he was a real spokesman for the Hindu traditions and everything, and everything said about him being a cheat and false or completely untrue. So this was tremendous relief for Swamiji. He writes in the letter to the Hale sisters. This sometimes he would write to all of them. There were four. There were actually two sisters and two cousins. So two sets of sisters. And Mary was the one he wrote to most often, but he was very close with all of them. So he wrote in this letter, "O my sisters, glory unto Jagadamba, Mother of the universe. I've gained beyond expectations. The prophet has been honored and with a vengeance. I'm weeping like a child at his mercy. He never leaves his servant, sisters. The letter I sent you will explain all, and the printed things are coming to the American people. The names there are the very flower of our country. The president was the chief nobleman of Calcutta, and the other man, Mahesh Chandra Nyayaratna, is the principal of the Sanskrit College and the chief Brahmin in all India, and recognized by the government as such. The letter will tell you all, O sisters, what a rogue am I, that in face of such mercies, sometimes the faith totters. Seeing every moment that I am in his hands, still the mind sometimes gets despondent. Sister, there is a God, a father, a mother, who never leaves his children. Never, never, never. Put uncanny theories aside, and becoming children, take refuge in him. I cannot write more. I'm weeping like a woman. Blessed, blessed art thou, Lord God of my soul." Swamiji says later at one time that I didn't mind what they said about me, but the thought that it would get back to my mother, the very touching thing, he loved his mother so much, the thought that it would get back to my mother and she would be hurt by all of this is something that I couldn't bear. Otherwise, I didn't mind, because my mother, who had only suffering in her life, that had to give up the one child who was capable of helping her, to think that he's been called a cheat and deceiving everybody, he said, would have been too much for her. So it was not a personal thing with Swamiji, it was for the sake of the work, and it's a very, very personal thing with regard to his mother. This was also something very important for him. There's a very interesting incident. I don't remember. It was one of Swamiji's own disciples. This is after Swamiji had gotten back from the West, had gotten back to India, that shows this repugnance for name and fame. That the young monk saw that Swamiji pacing back and forth in his room, and he was reciting this verse over and over again. It's a well-known verse. I'm not sure where it's from. This Abhimanam Surapanam Gaudavam Arirodavam Parishta Shukuri Vishta Trayam Tyaktva Sukhi Bhavet. That it says that Abhimanam, pride. That pride, I did such a wonderful job, I was a great speaker, everyone loved me so much. He said it's like in drinking wine, this intoxication that comes from pride. And Gaudavam, being heaped with praise and honor. It's like hearing the cries of those who are being burned in the hellfire. It's a very interesting verse. And Pradishta Shukrivishta, that any high position that one can be in, considered to be the head of a president of the Ramakrishna order or something like that, is like the droppings of a pig. And then it says, give up all of these and be happy. So this young monk, he was startled after Swamiji came back, and so the whole country was in praise of Swamiji, to see his disgust for all of this and his desire just to remain in the background. So none of this, if Swamiji was despondent about not getting any word from India that accepting responsibility and giving him praise, it has nothing to do with that. Any type of slander, he didn't mind. He actually had a bigger problem with the praise than with blame. This is a unique thing with Swamiji. So anyhow, this gives a clue, I think. If we find a little darkness to this poem that he wrote, that his mind was in such a state that both being praised by people, which is so evanescent. One day they praise you, the next day they won't look at you. That all of this praise and then all of this calumny, both of these together, could give us some insight into why he wrote a poem of this type. The other thing, and this is based on this idea that it really is addressed to Buddha, because there's quite a bit of a strain of Buddhist thinking in this. And we have this term nirvana and everything, and Buddhism is very strong with this idea of karma, that Buddha was really one of the most important figures and sources of inspiration for Swamiji throughout his life. He always had some tremendous reverence for the personality and the life of Buddha from the time he was a boy. We know about the one vision that Swamiji had, as Narendra sitting in his room meditating and sees, as if in the room with him, the golden complexion shining as a great sage, and he was young. I don't know, 15, 14, 15, something, I don't know how old he was, but he got frightened. Then he left the room, and he came back and saw the sage was no longer there. And then he said, it occurred to me that this was a vision of Buddha himself. So even when Sri Ramakrishna was so ill in Kashipur, he had that longing to go to Bodh Gaya, the place where Buddha had his enlightenment. And we read in the Gospel how much enthusiasm there was in discussion of the teaching of Buddha at the end. So, and Swamiji spoke about him so much, and his tremendously compassionate heart, and his willingness to sacrifice everything for truth. I'll read a couple of statements that Swamiji made. I would like to see more moral men like Gautama Buddha, who did not believe in a personal God or a personal soul, never asked about them, but was a perfect agnostic, and yet was ready to lay down his life for anyone, and worked all his life for the good of all, and thought only for the good of all. Well has it been said by his biographer in describing his birth, that he was born for the good of the many, as a blessing to the many. See, the Buddha was not very well known in India at that time, but this Edwin Arnold, he wrote that Light of Asia, that was popular at that time. And then, of course, Giddis wrote a play about it. So they all knew. Only Sri Ramakrishna didn't seem to know very much, knowing English and everything, but this was kind of a popular topic at that time. He did not go to the forest to meditate for his own salvation. He felt that the world was burning and that he must find a way out. Why is there so much misery in the world? Was the one question that dominated his whole life. Buddha is the only prophet who said, I do not care about your various theories about God. What is the use of discussing all subtle doctrines about the soul? Do good and be good, and this will take you to freedom and to whatever truth there is. To many, the path becomes easier if they believe in God. But the life of Buddha shows that even a man who does not believe in God, has no metaphysics, belongs to no sect, and does not go to any church or temple, and is a confessed materialist, even he can attain to the highest. We have no right to judge him. I wish I had one infinitesimal part of Buddha's heart. Buddha may or may not have believed in God. That does not matter to me. He reached the same state of perfection to which others come by bhakti, love of God, yoga, or jnana. And if we look for somebody who embodies the spirit of Buddha, the only person I can think of is Swamiji himself. Swamiji made this other great statement that the ideal person, the one that we really want to see, is the combination of the heart of Buddha and the head of Shankaracharya. And this was also Swamiji, that he had both of these combined together. So let's get to the poem and a little bit, all this emphasis on karma and samskaras and other doctrines that are all connected, free will and determinism, all of these things. Swamiji liked this doctrine of karma for one reason, that it made us stand on our own feet. This is, of course, one of the themes. Don't blame anybody else, that we have to take responsibility. Swamiji liked that. Not weeping and wailing and blaming God for anything or other people for anything. Anything that comes to us, we deserve it for things that we've done in the past. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. This is a spiritual attitude that one can take. That is a very helpful, very positive type of thing. Did Swamiji believe in it literally? Probably to some extent, of course. We can't say that he's recommending that we take a spiritual attitude that has no basis behind it. That won't make any sense at all. But as I said before, Swamiji had different moods. Sometimes everything is mother's will. How does this fit in? Sometimes mother's holding me by the hand. And we'll get to this question, what does this prarabdha karma mean for an Ishvara Koti? There's another very interesting type of question. But this is definitely one of the views that Swamiji liked. Personally, it appealed to him. And for someone who was really such a strong proponent of freedom and strength and everything, we find even when he's just still a boy, during the time of Sri Ramakrishna, and shortly after that, during the Paranagamat, he used to be very fond of this verse from the Gita, which is almost the opposite idea. This Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddhasya Junatishtiti, very famous verse. Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. That we see him having a discussion with some of his brother disciples. And they're talking about this free will and everything. And Swami says, where is this free will? He said, don't you know? Haven't you read Gita? Lord dwells within the hearts of each and every one of us. And is making us go around in circles almost. We can say, like somebody who's on this merry-go-round. Yeah, we think we're the ones who are riding the horse and everything, but it's a machine that's taking us around in circles. So where is this wonderful free will that we talk about? Swamiji quotes this verse in other places also. He was very fond of it because sometimes he was in that mood. I don't think that we can say, no, this is his real belief. This is the difficulty with Swamiji. That other times it's, we know, we'll crush the stars to atoms. We can do anything. We're the servants of the Lord, servants of Sri Ramakrishna. So we'll find that this mood is sometimes there in Swamiji's life. And he feels himself to be an instrument. Now, sometimes it's the play of Sri Ramakrishna, sometimes it's the Divine Mother, sometimes it's karma. But we all, I think, feel these things at different times. We question this idea, how much freedom do we really have? Yeah, how free are these decisions that we make? How much is part of our destiny? We have this concept of destiny that not exactly determinism, but somehow things are meant to be, meant to play out in a certain way. We don't know why or how. Hard to give a very good explicit type of doctrine for it. But this theory of karma is fairly well laid out and fairly scientific, because as Swamiji says, it's basically the law of cause and effect, that whatever we do will be the cause that will yield a particular type of effect. So this theory of karma, it's kind of like this vector theory in mathematics, that if something comes in one direction and another direction, and it has a certain speed and force behind it, and it hits a ball, it'll go in a certain direction with a certain speed. It's mathematically predetermined that it can't go anyplace else. It has to be like that. So this law of karma has that element to it, that it's something like gravity, that it can't be changed, it can't be defied. But Swamiji equally saw this law of karma as the opportunity for us to change. So this is when he says that now everything I am now is the result of what I did in the past. He draws a different conclusion. His conclusion is then, if I want to do something different in the future, I'll change the way I am now. So I look at this idea of free will as wiggle room. You know this doctrine of wiggle room. There's just enough space so that we can just make a little progress, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That we've been given a little bit of this, just enough. And the more we start to exercise that, the greater our power of free will becomes. But the difficulty is that there's no way to prove any of these things, that what I did was freely done. Could I have done it differently? Can we go back in time and test? Did I have to do it that way? Even if I did it freely, is it something that I had no choice about? These are all very mysterious questions. This is why this issue of free will is such a big question in all philosophical systems and different religious systems. But this very strong belief in karma was a big part of the Buddhist tradition. And they had an interesting way of understanding that no need to posit a soul that is constant throughout this whole process to explain the whole lifetime of an individual. That there's something that we can understand in terms of the fire brigade. You know, if there's a fire and you want to put out the fire, each individual can take a bucket of water and they can carry that water and throw it on the fire. Or they can line up in a row. And you take that bucket of water, it's called a bucket brigade, and you hand it to the next one person, the next, and it gets handed on till it gets in, it can put out the fire. So there's no one person who's present throughout the whole thing. The Vedantic idea would be that, yes, that there is a Sutratman, there's a self, there's a witnessing this whole thing as the whole process. There's some unifying factor in that. But they'll say we're carrying this bucket of karma, which will account for this oneness and sameness of individuality. It may get, a little water may drop out, something may be added to it, and each person who gets it, that memory of the previous one will be there. So they have the very strong belief in karma. And this is evident, of course, in this particular poem. The third, fourth, and fifth verses will show this, even to the exclusion of a personal God. To the exclusion of a personal God. The role of the personal God will vary in all different types of traditions. And there are some things that even Holy Mother says are beyond the possibility of even God himself doing anything about it. She made a very beautiful statement that if one accepts a human body, deho dharon korle, duko koshto ache, that there will be suffering. Vidhataro khamata nei, e virod karo. God himself is incapable of preventing this. So there's this idea with the karma or with the human condition, however we understand it, that this is a law that doesn't require anything else. That we're destined to have some type of suffering in this life, merely just because we have a human body, which will break down. We have to learn that we have to practice surrender and acceptance. And then she says, but if you want to go beyond this, then you have to do some sadhan bhajan. You do some spiritual practice for all of this. So this is what Swamiji is saying here. I am my own embodied past. That means that I'm the sum total, my personality. My personality is the sum total of everything that I've experienced, everything that I've thought, everything that event that's taken place in my life. All of these leave a mark on us, each and every one of us, and they mold our personality. So from the point of view of this lower self, Jivatman, we can say, this is not referring to the real self within, that's beyond all of this. But from that point of view, that I am the result of everything. Some of it previous lifetimes. We don't come in with a clean slate. And after that, everything we do in this lifetime also. So all of these things combined will lead us to have the personality that we have, the tendencies that we have, the desires that we have, will determine to a certain extent the path that we take in life, the choices that we make. All of these things are determined or influenced. And this is where there'll be different schools. Determined or influenced. I would say more influenced by everything that we've become. As I say, we just have enough of this power of observation and power of will so that we can fight against this. Swamiji says spiritual life means fighting against nature. Yeah, prakriti, it doesn't mean outside nature. Fighting against these tendencies of the mind. We read in Gita, Gita also will confuse us. Gita will also confuse us. We'll get this one verse that says, everybody acts in accordance with their nature. Nigraha kim karishyati. Yeah, what good will it do to even make an attempt to stop it, to change this? That this is our nature. Then other times it'll say, who is the happy person in this world? Who is the yogi? The one who has the power to forbear, the power to prevent these forces of the passions, lust, anger, desire, all of these things, those forces which are pushing us in a certain direction. The person who can withstand that tremendous force and act in some intelligent way is the yogi, and is the happy person, sukhi naraha. So we get a little bit of mixed signals, a little bit. If we look at some of these terms that are used with regard to this theory of karma, and that we find also in Gita, we can see slight gradations of meaning and gradations of power, the extent to which they determine things that we do. So we have samskara. These samskaras will be tendencies. We don't have to always follow them, we can change them. Yeah, Swamiji was saying this morning that don't pour water on the weeds and they'll stop growing. We have some tendencies to do it. We simply say, no, I'm not going to do it. They may die out a little bit, or at least they won't raise their head too much. Or they're very strong, we give them a twist. This was Ramakrishna's idea. We have some strong feeling of pride. Yeah, then be like Hanuman. Feel proud to be a devotee of God. Or some tendency to anger. Yeah, be angry at mother. Oh, mother, why won't you reveal yourself to me? So that type of idea. Or we can create new samskaras, which will just let the others wither and die. That we make a great effort to practice forbearance and to practice acceptance and everything, and that restlessness that we have and these other things will gradually disappear a little bit. So these samskaras are things that can be changed gradually. And this is what spiritual life is about. Spiritual life, really, to me, one of the most important elements of spiritual life is transformation of character. That we have to weed out all of these tamasic and rajasic elements in our character. How do we do it? Swamiji gives a very clear formula. Overcome tamas with rajas. We feel a tremendous lack of enthusiasm to get up and do something. Then we suffer because of this tremendous ambition and always restless to do things. Then practice this sattvic attitude. Be a little calm, overcome rajas with the sattva. This is all part of our spiritual practice. And those who are very sincere in spiritual life can find that there can be tremendous change in personality. And this transformation can take place. So, we have this term samskara, then prakriti. This is that verse that I referred to. Prakriti yanti bhutani. People follow their nature. What can we do to this topic? This prakriti is a little bit combination of all the samskaras, which comes almost to define us. And it's very difficult to change. And sometimes we just have to deal with it and accept it and work with it. Then we'll get a third term, swabhava. The swabhava in Gita, it's a little bit stronger even than nature. So that there's no changing that one. It doesn't mean swabhava. In Gita, it's rarely used in the sense of our real nature as the Atman. No, it means with regard to, say, Arjuna, it means his real nature is swabhava. He's a kshatriya. That don't think you can change that. That can't be changed. That you're a warrior, and that's the way you'll have to live in this world, and you have to accept it. But these other things, whatever samskara he had, that led him to this feeling of depression that he had, and desire to get out of the battle, and all of these things, those things are changeable types of things. So we are our own embodied past, but some things we have to learn to accept about ourselves, some things we have to see as correctable things, and we have to learn how to change all of these things. Now, this question just came into my mind, really about prarabdha karma. Swamiji is talking about himself as if he's an ordinary individual. Now, this idea of prarabdha karma is the metaphysical side, to some extent, of the doctrine, as opposed to the strictly psychological side. Psychological side, I think we can all agree that yes, that we're affected by everything that we experience in life, that it leaves a mark on us and it helps determine our nature, whether we have a positive experience or a negative experience. But this idea that because of something we did in a past life, we're destined to experience something in this life. This is that prarabdha karma idea. Some people will take this so literally that when we're born, because of our prarabdha karma, it's already determined how many breaths we'll take in this lifetime. And so there are all different degrees to which people will accept it. Some will say that, yes, length of life. Some will say whether one becomes a monk or one marries, that the wife is already pre-chosen, or husband, that this is part of that prarabdha karma. And others will say that each and everything that happens is predetermined. This idea. So it can be taken in many different ways. Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother both, they pay homage to the doctrine of prarabdha karma, but soften it to a great extent. So that Holy Mother would say, Sri Ramakrishna also, that if you're destined to be thrust through with a sword, say you did something horrible in a past lifetime, and this is your karma, prarabdha karma will lead you to have that type of violent death as a type of payment for what you did in the past. See, this is an alternative to a God in heaven deciding, yes, go to heaven or hell and all of that. Makes it some type of theory of justice, we can say, that if you have a change and you really become a great devotee and pray to God and everything, that you may have to get a pinprick instead. So they weren't ready to say that this prarabdha karma is something that can be done away with, but it can be lessened to a great extent. So they did not follow the very, very strict type of belief in karma that we'll find with some of the other schools in India. This Purvamimamsa and others, they'll be very strict about some of these types of things. But what about Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, those whom Sri Ramakrishna called Ishvara Koti, those who, or Nitya Siddha, those who were not born because of karma. They're not born because of any type of the force of their past karma. See, the idea is that if we have any karma left, any punya, any merit, any desires still, that we'll have to come back again. Now, these Nitya Siddhas, they're not born because they still have to strive for realization. They're already perfect. So what does prarabdha karma mean in their case? Now, as players in this divine Leela, they have something equivalent. I won't say it's exactly the same, and I won't say this is a scientific doctrine, but they also are born with something that they have to go through, some type of Leela equivalent to prarabdha karma. And we can also say that they are born with a personality, with these samskaras, the personality traits that are natural to them. Why and how from the previous lifetime, these are all very mysterious things. Very hard for us to understand these things. But this seems to be the case with Swamiji, that he felt, whether it's prarabdha karma, whether it's the play of Sri Ramakrishna, whether it's a destiny, he felt this burden that he had to fulfill his mission in life. See, for us, we can't really say it's a mission in life, but we can say that, yes, we have to bear the results of past action, and we have to learn how to deal with it. So a little different, or I should say quite different, in the life of these great souls. Anyhow, through this poem, we see the strong belief in the great power of past karma. That for Swamiji, the benefit of this belief is that we don't blame anybody else. This, I think, is the most important part of this. Whether we accept it literally or not, anything that will allow us to not be filled with anger and frustration and regret. Anything that doctrine that we can hold on to, that'll be a blessing for us. If it's a belief in the Divine Mother, this our kitten example, that whatever happened is Mother's will, then all the worry and everything, that'll disappear. If it's this idea of karma, that yeah, it was meant to be, what can I do? I'll make the best of it. If it's something like that, then it's also a beautiful attitude. I'll tell you an incident that I remember with our Swami Swahanandaji. Swami Swahanandaji, he of course was a man of many different moods and explained everything in all the different ways. But we were walking one time. I used to visit every year at one point after I moved to the East Coast. I would visit with Swamiji. We would go for walks together. And during this period, it was towards the end of his life, and he had some attendants with him earlier that had left, that they weren't there. So I said, Swamiji, it's such a shame that at this stage of your life, when you really need somebody to be serving you, that there's nobody here to help you. And he looked at me with that very sweet smile that he had. He said, "What can I do? It's my karma." Now, did he really mean it? Did he really believe it? Did he do anything terrible in his lifetime that would make him have to suffer at the end? I don't think so. I mean, I certainly don't believe it, but I could see the peace on his face, and I could see the relief and surrender and everything, and not the slightest bit of frustration or anger or anything, and just from adopting that attitude. So I'd like to think of all of these things in terms of spiritual attitude and how helpful they are for us. I like this attitude. Everything that happens is Mother's will. If you press me, you really believe it literally. I can't say 100%. Don't give me a lie detector test. But I like that attitude. It's very helpful for me, and I cling to it. And it eliminates all types of other types of worries and problems and everything. That, yes, it happened. Yeah, it must be for my benefit somehow. And then it becomes beneficial. This kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. So this karma also, sometimes I also like that attitude. Yeah, what can I do? It's my karma. Then don't blame anybody else. Just accept it, surrender to it, and then figure out how do I change it. So it's a very nice way of looking at all of this. Then all of this is meant to lead to a certain detachment and a certain desire to get out of this life. We've seen this in Swamiji's poem, "My play is done." And in his song of the Sannyasin, this thirst for life forever quench. It leads the soul from birth to death. And so this is also a big theme in Buddhism, that this is even Raja Yoga, that this is one of the last desires that we have to get rid of, this longing just to live at any cost. We see this such a common thing, that there'll be people that we know that they're at the final stage of life, and yet they'll want to, every last second they'll want to live. I'm always amazed when I see that the criminals who've killed somebody and they're facing possible execution, how they'll fight tooth and nail to avoid capital punishment, even knowing that they may spend a whole lifetime in the worst possible atmosphere in prison and everything, just because there's something about either fear of death or just clinging to life. So this clinging to life is considered one of the great obstacles. So Swamiji talks about that also. And then ultimately, so we've seen that not so much in the case of Swamiji, this longing to get out of things, but going back home. This is that great theme that we find in Swamiji's life, that recognition that he's been sent out to play and that he's got to do his work and everything is set for him to go back. So we saw this before, but again, I want to stop now by reading this beautiful letter that he wrote to Josephine MacLeod. "After all, Joe, I am only the boy who used to listen with rapt wonderment to the wonderful words of Ramakrishna under the banyan at Dakshineshwar. That is my true nature. Works and activities, doing good and so forth, are all superimpositions. Now I again hear his voice, the same old voice thrilling my soul. Bonds are breaking, love dying, work becoming tasteless. The glamour is off life. Only the voice of the Master calling. I come, Lord, I come. Let the dead bury the dead, follow thou me. I come, my beloved Lord, I come. Yes, I come. Nirvana is before me. I feel it at times. The same infinite ocean of peace without a ripple, without a breath." So this is what really strikes me as the deeper meaning of all of this. Not so much that we should feel, yes, I'm bound by all of this karma and everything, but this all applies to only one side of our life. and that within all of this is that real self that's longing to go back to its real home, that is underlying everything in Swamiji. How we see this desire to finish this work that he's been given, and to be able to go back home, and this tremendous belief that they all had, that somehow they'll be reunited with Sri Ramakrishna. This is why I feel when Swamiji is asked, "Do you know who you really are?" This is my feeling, that Swamiji says, "Yes, I know, I'm the eternal servant of Sri Ramakrishna. Forget about this Nada and Shiva and everything else. That's my personal feeling, that this is that eternal relationship, and that he's born to do the work of Sri Ramakrishna, and that they have some." Even Sri Ramakrishna used to say that it was like Shiva and Shakti, the two of them together. So anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed some of the poems that we've gone through the last couple of days. I'm always very thankful to Maharaj for inviting me here. I'm very fond of this center, and I know so many of you so well after so many years, that it's really great joy and a great pleasure. So thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, if there's time, I'm happy to answer questions. Yes.
So you always count on Charlie. So you touched on this toward the end.
Yes.
But it's one thing that really troubled me about this poem, and it also troubles me to some extent about certain aspects of Buddhism, but basically emptiness. And when in the line in the poem, "I give up life, I give up death," it sort of really implies, instead of the shining Atman that we often refer to in Vedanta, just not, sort of emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you can speak a little bit more about that.
Many people feel that some of the Buddhist traditions are a little pessimistic. I think, from a very personal point of view with regard to Swamiji, that from time to time he felt a tremendous type of world weariness, that the burden that he was given was just so heavy that he really longed to be finished with it. And what would come afterwards was almost secondary to him. Yeah, the question of what happens to the realized soul is very, very mysterious, that we very often hear this idea of heaven is a Western idea, that there can't be any type of eternal heaven. Many of the traditions in India have a belief in heaven, that you'll go, there'll be some eternal Nitya Vrindavan the Vaishnavas can go to. And so all different theories, that we live in the presence of God, we take on the qualities of God. There are 5 different types of mukti in some of these Vaishnava traditions. The sadharamya, salokya, sarshti, all the different types of things. The followers of Ramanuja, they'll say that, yes, some individuality is there, but the soul is free from all particularities in something. So it's something like the wave is still there, but somehow it's gone and become one with the ocean. If we look at some of these Upanishadic ideas and Vedantic ideas, the drop of water that goes back into the ocean, does it have any type of individuality? And the whole concept of final liberation is Videha Mukti in Advaita Vedanta, also defies any type of really understanding of what that experience would. It's an experience that's not an experience. If the closest that I can come to is that it's like the experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That if someone has Nirvikalpa Samadhi, whether the body is there or the body falls off, it's the same type of, but isn't it experience even? And how different is it from the nirvana, at least of the Theravada schools. In Buddhism, they don't have any belief really. Yes, the flame has gone out. So there's no more rebirth. Yeah. So Vedanta will never say it's simply no more rebirth, but it's an experience that's not an experience. To be one with the Brahman, what does it mean exactly? See, we know the joy of samadhi only because people that can come down back from it. That we know that they're filled with bliss, filled with the joy. It must have been something special, but there's no one to experience it at that time. So how do we even grasp? Either we have to think in terms of some personal God and some type of experience, or some state that's beyond all possible explanations. And how very different would it be from just going to sleep and not waking up? Now we know that we're asleep, some experience is taking place, but there's no one to experience it. Witness, maybe they're watching, but for us. So if our whole spiritual life is banking on what's going to take place after death, that's a big question mark. For me, there'll be other people who have burning faith. We go to heaven or we do this or that. But for me, spiritual life is about here and now. That we're trying to experience that ultimate reality now, and that's within our grasp, and we are that. And what it means to put an end to the round of birth and death, what does it mean if we've realized that there was no individual soul to begin with at all? That it's just a reflection of that one sun. And does the reflection of the sun go back into the sun? Or just that there's no longer anything to hold that reflection? I don't want to sound too negative about all of this, but but if we're striving for something after death, that's the only goal that we have. Or if we just don't want to be born again, then okay. But if we're really striving for something that will be eternal joy and eternal bliss without any individuality, then it's very hard to even intellectually understand this. I'll let Maharaj give his opinion about these things, but these are very difficult things to talk about and to experience. Those who believe in a personal God, it's much easier for them. Yes, the individual soul becomes perfectly pure, and there's no physical body, so there's no hunger or thirst, and there's just joy living in the presence of God. But sometimes Swamiji makes fun of these ideas, that all these ideas of heavens and everything are all based on the things that we don't have here. So those who live in these desert areas, heaven will be something very lush and green and everything. Yeah, and even personal God. That if a water buffalo has a conception of God, it'll be a great, huge, big water buffalo. So these are questions that I don't think have very easy answers to them, but if we understand spiritual life to be about how we live in this world, how we can realize the truth of this world, how we can transcend all of these things that keep us in a state of bondage, and then we don't have to worry too much about these other. What happens will happen. Should take care of itself. It's not a good answer probably, but anyhow, it's an honest answer from my point of view. Yeah, anyhow. Yes.
No, stay there. No, right here.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Actually, it was very interesting. What you were telling is we were actually driving from Boston, and we were on the way. We were on NPR. There was this wonderful thing called the Hidden Brain, Shankar Vedantam, the podcast. And in that, this entire discussion was about this Indian traditions and why it is so powerful. And one of the central core of this message was illusion is a necessary and sufficient condition for our happiness, which is almost like telling there is something called illusion, mystery, and transcendence transcendence, if I may, are essential for our personal happiness. Because if you continue to pursue something and want to know the absolute something, you may not reach one. But mystery allows you to reconcile. So, any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, this is just hearing the word transcendence. It just raises the whole soul. This idea that we can transcend. This idea that all of this talk about karma and everything, this all belongs to the mind. It all belongs to the subtle body, the causal body, and all of that. Swamiji really, if we go through his writings carefully, everything is about I am the self. And for Swamiji, the Atman, and I think this is something that is very original with Swamiji, that the Atman is not simply this awareness, observing beyond everything. Atman is the source of all strength. This strength is the source of all the power. This lion, this idea that the self, that if we can really know our real nature, then we'll transcend everything. We'll feel ourselves to be one with the whole universe. We read these beautiful verses in Vivekachudamani that, yes, I am that ocean of consciousness in which the waves rise and fall, one after another, each one a universe being created and destroyed. I am that ocean. In me, all of this takes place. The winds of Maya are causing these waves to rise. I am that. So, yeah, for me, spiritual life is understanding our own transcendence, that we're not limited to this body and mind. We're not, even if we're bound by our karma in terms of the lower self. I'm not that. I'm not that. I am the witness of that. I am the one who's been observing that through lifetime after lifetime. I'm the one who's not affected by anything. And if I can convince my mind to also become the witness, so that I can convince my mind that you can be like that upper bird. You don't have to go and merge and end everything. You be the lower bird, but learn from that upper bird. The majesty that comes from just observing things and from not getting dragged down to anything. The majesty, this is the Mahimanam, the majesty of that upper bird, the real self. I am that. The fearlessness, that one does not grieve. This parable that Swamiji gives, a very beautiful parable about the two birds. But the way the verse is explained in the Mundaka Upanishad itself is not really just the lower bird feeling like he's one with the higher bird. The lower bird looks at the upper bird and sees the majesty and joy of it and becomes free from all grief. Yeah. That if we realize that's our true nature, or if we realize that the indwelling presence of God, two options. We can have that stick of ego separating us. If we feel divine presence within our hearts at all moments, we'll get that feeling of joy and transcendence. If we can identify with that, and that I am that self, then what happens to this body and everything else doesn't matter. That I'm something beyond everything. Transcendence, yeah, it's a wonderful idea.
Any question upstairs? No. Many, many thanks, Swami Atmajnanananda ji, for last 2 days. He has been pouring out the wisdom in Swami Vivekananda's poems. This morning he also gave a wonderful talk at Vedanta Society of Connecticut about that living consciously and acting skillfully. We all are very much indebted to him, for the wonderful discourses. And let me tell about the upcoming programs. Next Sunday, the discussion is about feeling lonely, and it will be followed by a sitar concert by Partha Bose, accompanied by Amit Kautekar on tabla. So you are all invited for that too. Tuesday and Friday classes will go on as usual at 7:30 p.m. Tuesdays the topic is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and on Fridays it is stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. The daily morning and evening prayers, meditations, they will go on as usual. Coming Saturday, there will be a day-long meditation from after our regular guided meditation and prayers from noon till 8 p.m. So you are welcome to participate in that as well. Let me conclude with the closing prayers. After that, there will be our regular arati that will be sung from here. You can be here or in the hall. Only if you want to come into the hall, you will have to remove your footwear. And after that, there will be the concert of Indian classical vocal music by Dattatreya Velankar, a very well-known singer. So that will be downstairs after the evening arati there. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.
Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Stainless Lord, assuming human form. Stainless Lord, assuming human form, transcendence yet filled with love. You free us from the stain of sin and ornament our world. Consciousness is upon. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Looking at them, illusion is gone. Ocean of shining love and feeling, ever inebriated in your infinite love. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Form a boat to cross this world. Revealed to us as God incarnate and the Lord of all things, helping us join with you. Mind's always set in the divine light. Your mind's always set in the divine light. This we can see through your grace. Destroyer of our worldly sorrow and compassion so infinite is your word. Your life's offered for the world's deliverance. Your life's offered for the world's deliverance, saving us from darkness and fear. Renouncer of all lust and lucre, therefore you were always spurning sensual life. Lord of monks, you are the best of men. Lord of monks, you are the best of men. Grant to us pure love for you. You're fearless and you're free from doubting, with your mind very firmly resolved. Causeless refuge of your devotees. Causeless refuge of your devotees. Renouncing caste and birth. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even-sightedness. You give love and even-sightedness to remove our anguish here. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even-sightedness. You give love and even-sightedness to remove our anguish here. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's gate. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's gate. Darkness is destroyed by your light. O Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's gate. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's gate. Darkness is destroyed by your light. O Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Langa Ranga Bhanga, these are all the sounds of Mridanga. Langa Ranga Bhanga, these are all the sounds of Mridanga. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Jaya Jaya for your worship divine. Haru Haru for your worship divine. Shiva Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing glory. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. Nature's real basis, nature's essence. O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All our suffering remove, Goddess. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, all love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, all love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, all love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sarda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddhadev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jesus Christ Ki Jai.